It's finally time. Crash Bash, a party game that came out nearly 20 years ago now, and the first Crash game that wasn't made by Naughty Dog. It's also the first Crash game I'm reviewing that isn't in the main story. Oh yeah, if you're new here, this is a series that I'm doing where I review every single Crash game. So far, I've covered these games. I'll link all of those videos down below. Now, I never really played Crash Bash back then. I was born in 1999, and I wasn't really a gamer when this game came out. I played it a little bit a few years ago, but all I can remember is it being difficult and frustrating. With that being said, let's get into the game and play through the whole thing for the first time. There's 3 different modes that you can play in this game: Adventure Mode, Battle Mode, and Tournament. We'll start off with the Adventure Mode since that's the main thing. There's 8 characters that you get to choose from, including Rilla-Roo, a brand new character whose only ever appearance in the Crash series was in this game, until December 2019 when he was added to Nitro Fueled. It's funny, people either love or absolutely despise this character. We haven't gotten into the story yet, but essentially there's 2 teams, Aku Aku's team versus Uka Uka's. The beginning cutscene shows the 2 arguing over who's strongest. Uka tries to settle it with a good old fist fight, but oh wait. Aku says that they can't fight because the ancients won't allow it, so Uka comes up with another idea. A contest, good against evil, and Aku Aku agrees. They teleport the team members over to the space temple, but Aku Aku says a 6v2 isn't fair and wants him to hand over 2 of his players to even things out. So he gives the good team Tiny and Dingodile. You know when you're in class and you have to get into groups, but the teacher picks them and separates you from your friends? That's exactly how Dingodile looks in this cutscene. And yeah, that's all there really is to the story, at least until the end of the game. After all, it is just a party game. So now let's talk about the gameplay. There's 4 warp rooms that you have to play through. In each one there's multiple mini games and then a boss fight. The first level is Crash Ball, where you have to shoot the balls into your opponent's goal. You all start with 15 lives, and to be honest, it's one of my favorites in the whole game. It's simple, it's fun, and it gets crazy when more balls start popping out. The first player to win 3 rounds wins the trophy. But after you win the trophy, you aren't done with this mini game just yet. You still have the gem and crystal challenges to do. You don't need to do them, but later on in the game, the boss battles require a certain amount of trophies, gems, and crystals to face them. For example, to go up against the second boss, Bear Moneta, you need 9 trophies, which you unlock by doing the regular mini games, but you also need 6 gems and 3 crystals. So you don't have to get the gem and the crystal on Crash Ball, you could get them from other levels. But let me tell you, these crystal challenges get rough at times, so it's probably best if you get them on the earlier levels, the easier ones. If you aren't sure what the gem challenges are, they're basically the same mini game, but even harder. So for Crash Ball, you start with 9 lives instead of 15, but everyone else still starts with 15. Then you have the Crystal Challenge, where you don't have the ability to use the extra kick. This actually made it harder than I thought it would be. I didn't really realize how useful the kick was until it was gone. It took me a good 6 or 7 attempts, I think, to get the crystal on this one. The good thing about the gem and crystal challenges is that they're only 1 round instead of 3. Moving on to the second level in Warp Room 1, Polar Panic. In this one, you just have to push each other off the iceberg. There's power-ups that you can get from the laser, some of which help you. If you have the lightning, it will strike the other players and they won't be able to move for a couple seconds. But then you have the weight, which will eliminate you if you have it when it drops. You can pass the power-ups over to the other players by smashing into them. The third minigame is Pogo Painter, where you go around the arena painting squares as you go along. You have to smash the purple crates to turn the squares into points. And that purple crate is currently a playable character in Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. You heard that right. The last minigame in Warp Room 1 is Jungle Bash. The goal of this one is to defeat the other players by throwing crates and TNTs at them. I'd say this one was my second favourite in Warp Room 1. After that, we get to face Papu Papu in the first boss fight. It's not too bad, it's split up into 3 phases and they're all basically the same. You'll evade his attacks and then he'll spawn 2 Crash minions that can be defeated in 1 hit. And then you get the chance to throw a crate at him to take away some of his health. Funnily enough, I thought the minigames were harder than the actual boss fight. I managed to do it in my first attempt. After beating Papu Papu, we get to move on to Warp Room 2. The first level in Warp Room 2 is called Beach Ball, and it's the same thing as Crash Ball. I mean, it's a little bit different. This time there's a new mechanic where you can attract balls and then fire them back faster. You can also do this. The next 3 levels are also repeats with slightly different changes. Polar Panic is Tilted Panic. The difference here is that the iceberg tilts and there's no barrier, which makes it a bit harder. After that is the Pogo Stick level. This time, instead of smashing crates to make your squares turn into points, you have to circle an area and the squares inside of it will turn into points. Jungle Bash is now Space Bash, and it's harder because you can destroy the arena and fall through the gaps now. It altered the gameplay quite a bit actually. It's my favourite variant of this arena minigame. So it can get a little bit repetitive since there's even more variants of these these games in Warp Room 3 and 4, and going for the crystals and gems, you end up playing them so much. But the changes made them harder to beat, and I didn't lose interest in most of them. Plus, some of the gem and crystal challenges were different too. However, there is a brand new minigame in Warp Room 2, and it's called Desert Fox. It's a tank game, and goddamn is it crazy. I could barely keep up with what was going on. You have the other players shooting at you, mines that they drop which destroy the entire row, ricochets that you have to watch out for, even your own. This tank minigame can be fun, but extremely frustrating. We'll get to that in a bit. After we win the trophies on those 5 games, we can face the second boss, Moneta, as long as you have the 6 gems and 3 crystals, which I didn't, so I had to go back and get them. Moneta is way harder to beat than Papu Papu. Firstly, he shoots a minion at you that will fire a rocket. If that hits you, you might as well just restart. Sometimes you can recover, but you're stunned for like 5 seconds, and they'll usually just knock you off in that time. After they shoot the rocket, you can push them off the edge, and then you can shoot a rocket at Moneta himself. It's tough. The rockets are hard to evade, especially when half the platform's gone. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. He'll destroy some of the platform every time he takes damage. But after beating him, it's on to Warp Room 3. This time on level 1, Engine pops up every now and then and shoots balls out, and there's like just so much going on. This one is just insane. The only thing that gives you a slight chance at winning is the force field thing that you can pick up. If you can get to it, that is, because it spawns at the left or right side of your goal, and the other players go for it too. It allows you to repel balls away from your goal for a short period of time. It helps a lot. And this was just for the trophy. In the Crystal Challenge, Engine only shoots balls at your goal. In the second level, Uka Uka destroys some of the iceberg, which makes it a bit harder. In the Pogo painting level, Ripperoo goes around dropping TNTs, which really isn't much of a change from the previous one, because you get spammed with items anyway. If anything, it's less chaotic than the second one, which is good. I needed a break from the chaos. The difference with the fourth level is that there's a penguin that spins around, and he spins the crates all over the place. Plus he takes damage if he hits you, and it's also slippery, so it's easier to slip into a nitro crate. The tank game is still just as chaotic, especially the Crystal Challenge. Try and win without hitting the mines that drop from the sky. This is what I was talking about earlier. This is where it just gets way more frustrating than it does fun. Right here, I'm trapped by Crash and a mine on the ground. I need to get out of there somehow because the mine blows up the entire row. Oh great, the platform switched, so I can go through here. But fucking Dingo Dial is already at the other side shooting at me, and I have no way of dodging his attack. And then another 3 mines land on both sides of the row. So what on earth am I meant to do? Accept defeat. That's what you have to do on this one. I like a challenge, don't get me wrong. I don't want games to be too easy. But sometimes in this, it didn't feel like a challenge. It felt impossible. It felt like it was based on luck. Other minigames were tough, but they didn't feel unfair like this one. But then we move on to the new game, the last minigame of Warp Room 3, and it's awful. So you have to do 10 laps around this circuit, but the controls are so sensitive. You can fly off the edge way too easily, the other players hit you way too often, and they go around the circuit so quickly, so even when you do managed to go around it at a decent pace, they were 1 or 2 laps ahead of me. I just didn't like this one. Boss Battle 3 is against Komodo Joe and Mo. Firstly, they use a series of weapons from their ship that you have to destroy. That bit isn't too bad. Then they actually come out in tanks and you have to destroy them. Thankfully though, if you die at this bit, you only have to replay the second half of it, which made this so much better. The defense respawns and you have full health again. It's actually my favorite boss battle so far. The difficulty of it was just about right. Now it's time for the 4th and final warp room. Crash Ball is now in the sky and the platform tilts around, sometimes to the point where you just have to accept the fact that you're going to have to let a few in. This variant is way better than the one where Engine pops out though. There's not too much different about the second one. You can get knocked off of Polar though in this one. Another pogo stick level, except you can't land on your own coloured squares now. Another battle arena, another tank level, which is the best one because it's open. Finally, I can breathe in this level. We have another annoying driving level. This one is even worse because there's more crap you have to worry about. Toxic barrels, slimes, the other players, rockets. I really don't like this level. The new minigame in Warp Room 4 isn't too exciting. You just run around popping balloons by jumping into them. You can get power-ups to attract them closer to you. It's alright. And now it's time to face the final boss. Oh wait, not yet. We have to get 15 gems and 12 crystals. That's 5 more gems and 5 more crystals. Again, I swear some of them are based on luck and repetition. You do it over and over again, you'll eventually get there. I went through all the previous levels to find the easiest ones I could get the gems and crystals on. But once you have enough, you can face Oxide. This boss fight is split up into 2 phases. The first bit is a space chase, where you have to dodge his nitro crates, his rockets, but also mines and walls that are in the way. Then you go through a portal and it transitions into a Crash Ball 1v1. Oxide is really good at defending in this, but it's not just the balls you have to focus on. Every now and then there'll be a wave of rockets that shoot at you, because why not? And to make things even worse, you have to watch out for that red ball again, which blows you up instantly. Easily the hardest boss fight in the game. When you beat Oxide, you'll get one of two endings depending on what team you picked. If you're playing for Aku Aku, he'll say that Uka Uka had a plan to steal the crystals and use their power, so Aku Aku hides them away. Uka gets mad and then gets sucked out of the temple. But if you're playing for Uka Uka, which I was just because I wanted to use Rillaroo, then he straight up steals the crystals. Aku says that Earth is doomed and tells Crash to go hide, and Uka says there's nowhere to hide from the wrath of Uka Uka. Not exactly a happy ending if you choose one of his characters. After beating Oxide, you unlock Warp Room 5, but you have to unlock the levels to play them. The way you unlock the levels is by getting a certain amount of crystals, gems, and relics. That's right, you can replay every single level and try to win the relics. No thanks. To win the relics, you have to beat the champions of the arena. For example, in Crash Ball, it's the same thing, it's just incredibly difficult because you're going up against the champions. Same with Polar Panic and so on. You go up against the best of the best. Once you have enough, you unlock the levels in Warp Room 5 and then you can do those. If you want to, that is. Me personally, did not feel like doing that at all. Honestly, if you've completed Crash Bash 200%, you are an absolute madman. So that was Crash Bash. What did I like about it? Some of the mini games were fun. Crash Ball was my favourite. That one I didn't mind replaying multiple times. Some of the other mini games were decent too, like the Battle Arena one where you throw crates around. I actually liked the boss battles too. None of them really disappointed me. Papu Papu was quite easy, but it was the first boss. Bear Moneta was tricky because of those minions. The Komodo Bros were hard, but fair. I actually felt like replaying it every time I failed it. And Oxide was the toughest one, which is good for a final boss. I liked some of the gem and crystal challenges too, believe it or not. Some of them I liked more than the original game to win the trophy, maybe because they were only one round, so they didn't take as long if you failed and had to retry them. But some of them are challenging in a way that doesn't make me feel like snapping my disc in half, which is how I felt about a few others. A few things that I disliked about the game, the difficulty of some of the levels. Again, I like a challenge, but not when it feels unfair, and that's how it felt sometimes. Also, this game can be a bit repetitive. It didn't bother me too much, but the levels are the same thing with slight changes. I liked some of those changes, but other times, for example the Pogo level, I was sick of it. I guess it really depends on what mini games you like. If you don't like a certain mini game, you're not going to want to replay it multiple times. They were the biggest two negatives that I had about this game. Again, I didn't play this game at the time nearly 20 years ago, so I'm not really sure if this was like the best thing ever at the time. Also, there is a battle mode where you can play the arenas with your friends. I can imagine this game being a lot better, way more fun if you play with your friends. After all, it is a party game. So considering it's a party game, I feel like that's where a lot of enjoyment is, and I just didn't get to experience that. But do I think Crash Bash was a good game? I think it's a decent party game. Some of the mini games are fun to play, some of them not so much. It got a bit repetitive towards the end, but I had fun playing it. Let's just put it this way, I had more fun playing this than I did with Mind Over Mutant and the Wrath of Cortex. But yeah, that is going to be it for this video, everyone. Keep in mind that this is just my opinion. If you liked or disliked this game, then that's fine. I'm not sure what I'm going to review next, but it's either going to be Crash 1 or Crash Boom Bang. I think the answer to the question, were they a good game, is quite obvious, but I think I might do Boom Bang first since the Crash 1 review will take longer and I can work on it while I'm doing the Boom Bang review so it comes out not too long after. I'm not sure yet, I'll decide soon. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Definitely subscribe if you're new here and I'll see you all in my next video.